Right, okay. Sean, okay, Sean. Canny Talk Podcast, episode 11. And by the title, we're talking about remakes. You'll be able to see that we're talking about remakes. Basically, what movies should be remade, what movies should never be remade. And, you know, it seems prevalent now because almost everything nowadays seems to either be a remake or a sequel or a long-lost brother of some... based on some film that was terrible back in the day.
Every Disney cartoon is being remade live action.
Well, no, that's not true. Only the really good cartoons have been remade, and all the ones that weren't so good aren't being remade for some reason. Satire. Well, that's a good place to start. It's Disney. Disney's a good place to start because Disney.
That's an obvious one.
Yeah.
Because they're doing that a lot, and I think there's a few due to come out, isn't there? Is there?
Snow White's happening, isn't it? And there's a lot.
I know there's a Little Mermaid. Isn't there a Little Mermaid supposed to come out?
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy behind the Snow White one, isn't there? At the minute, because there's Peter Dinklage, and there's a comedian whose name I forget, who's also a dwarf. You do call them dwarfs, don't you? It's dwarfism.
Yeah.
They have dwarfism. And they've come out and they've said, you know, it's a bit weird that these movies are labelling themselves progressive, but they're not using dwarves. The original plan was to have normal sized actors playing dwarves. They've scrapped that now completely and said there's no dwarves whatsoever. And they're just going to replace them with other magical creatures. Which is a bit queer, considering they're making a movie called Snow White and the Seven Dwarves.
Yeah.
And they're not going to involve dwarves.
They did that in the Snow White and the Huntsman, didn't they?
Yeah.
They got actors to... They got, I don't even know what to call them in comparison.
Actors who don't have dwarfism.
Yes, to play the dwarves.
Yeah. I think it's not offensive to say regular.
I know, I just don't know how to refer to it.
Yeah.
In terms of what actors without it.
But it's queer that they've come out and said now that they're just not going to have dwarves. It was like, because was the issue with that film the dwarves?
No, it's just you should just hire dwarves.
But this is why it's such a good place to start. Why does Snow White need to be remade? It doesn't need to be remade. You would think, like, the word remade almost implies that you're going to improve something that didn't work the first time round.
Well, the thing is, though, with Snow White, it's one of those movies that so many people have remade it in the same sense as Cinderella, because it's like, it's such an old story. It's been done so many times. It's not even, strictly speaking, Disney owned, is it, that story? There's something like that, isn't it? I'm sure I've read somewhere, Snow White, Cinderella. Because it's not...
There's a few of the Disney stories that are based on the Grimm brothers.
Yeah, but it's not... Disney don't technically own it, so that's why they could do that, that recent Cinderella one with...
Yeah.
That's
Camilla Cabello. Is it Camilla Cabello?
Yeah. That's
Shawn
why,
Mendes'
yes,
ex-girlfriend or something.
That's why they could make it, because Disney don't own the rights to it or something.
Yeah. But to be fair, Disney own pretty much everything now, so even if it's not technically Disney owned, it still is technically Disney owned because Disney own everything. They probably own us, and we don't even know it.
I think the thing is, though, and I think it probably stems back to the idea of cartoons versus live action, which is that we as adults now cannot watch our cartoons because they're for children. So therefore, the only way they can keep on making money from them, from the adults, is by live action.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, because that comes from that stigma, doesn't it? And it's that...
Because we as adults cannot watch the cartoons.
Yeah, especially since we started watching anime and watched What If from Marvel.
Yeah.
Is that stigma just isn't true. Just because it's anime, it doesn't mean it's for children.
There's so many cartoons that you can bring up that argument for, but...
I mean, Invincible. Invincible's another one.
Yeah.
That's what we watched in it.
It's, do you know what, I understand if the movie wasn't successful when they originally released it, going, okay, maybe we can remaster it, do a live action version, and try and see if we can maybe popularise this unsuccessful movie that we had in the past. But they're doing movies like... They did Mulan.
Beauty and the Beast. Mulan.
And
Mulan's the one especially where I'm kind of like... I was like, what on earth are you remaking that film for? To me, that's the perfect Disney film. It's got a great Disney princess. and it's got a strong
Wouldn't
female
it-
character without having to say she's a strong female character. You know, she's a character that everyone, not just women, could aspire to be like. It's got great side characters. It's got a great villain. It looks great. Great music. It's like, why do you need to remake that film? Worse yet, why do you need to remake that film? Take out most of the great characters and just have it be pandering. It's just a pandering film, and that's all the Mulan remake was. And it bugged me so much when I found out that we were remaking that film, because you could see what was going to happen a mile off.
I think just they started. For me, it was when they took out what's his name, Shan,
Yeah.
because that's the love interest.
Yeah.
And I think obviously the idea was like, well, she doesn't need a love interest.
Yeah.
But the whole point of her story was that she left. She wasn't there for him. She was there to fight for her family and for honour and for China. And then she left, and he went after her.
Yep.
And even then, she was like, they weren't really together, were they? In the sense of other Disney movies.
No, they were in the second one.
They were in the second one,
They were all.
but
loved up
as
the second
in
one.
they didn't get married straight away for some reason.
No, exactly. And
The-
that's
That's the difference, though, isn't it? She wasn't there for him,
But it's like
so it's not like it's a negative on the female side of it. They didn't need this. He still should have been in the movie.
Yeah. Aladdin. That's another one they did.
Aladdin.
But
Aladdin wasn't terrible. I didn't really see the point of the remake. I could still watch it. It was enjoyable. Will Smith wasn't awful as the genie, as
No.
everyone imagined him to be.
no, Will Smith wasn't awful, but Jafar was terrible. Aladdin was terrible. Jasmine was good, but it felt like they sacrificed Jafar and Aladdin to make Jasmine. They tried to make Jasmine more like Mulan, didn't they? That's essentially what they tried. They tried to make her much more, what's the word? A much bigger character than she is in the animated version. Because in the animated version, her only role basically is to stand there and say, "I'm not a prize to be won," isn't it? While all the time she is essentially a prize to be won, which isn't very nice. It's not a very nice thing for me to say. It's not a very nice thing for the film to say. But that's essentially what she is. She stands there the whole time saying, "I'm not a prize to be won," but she is won by Aladdin, who has to overcome all this terrible stuff, and eventually find out that it's not the riches that makes him strong. It's his character. It's all about Aladdin.
Like, what was the one? Lion King.
I know.
Let's talk about Lion
Come
King for
on.
a second. That, for some reason, it really bugs the life out of us when people say that's a live action. First of all, it's not a live action, because it's all digital.
CGI.
They all made it. It's all digital, whatever you want to call it. It's not live action, and I just didn't understand it. Because
I hated that film as well. Oh, I hated that film as well.
for me, it had like Seth Green is Pumbaa. Seth Green?
Yeah.
Seth Green? No,
It
Seth
had-
Rogen.
They had Seth Rogen, and they had that. What's he called? That guy who runs around on the street with his microphone.
Yes.
He was Timon
Yeah.
to Seth Rogen.
They were. I felt like they were very good.
I think John Oliver was Zazu, wasn't
Mm-hmm.
he? I think so. But yeah, I know what you mean.
For me, it was the reason why the original movie, was so good was the fact it was animated. If that makes sense. Like but it goes to show when they take out the animation side of it, it just isn't the same. Like the emotion, and you could argue that some of that is because of the voice acting, but for me, just the emotion of it, you're just looking at like
Yeah.
a realistic looking lion.
I felt bad because
I was
John Favreau's, almost single-handedly, him and Bryce Dallas Howard, have pretty much single-handedly resurrected Star Wars. And I felt like Disney basically went, right, okay, we need you to do something with Disney classic films. We need you to do
Yeah.
something. How about Lion King, John Favreau? And John Favreau had to go... Because I feel like John Favreau's clever enough to be going, does Lion King... Does it need to be remade? I mean, give me, Tarzan or The Hunchback, one of these films that's underappreciated but would be quite good if we remade it. No, do The Lion King. Oh, and make sure you keep, David L. Jones, James L. Jones, whatever his name is, as Mufasa. Don't change that, because why would you change that? But change everyone else, because all of the rest of them were terrible.
I don't know. I feel like the voice acting as well wasn't the best.
No, it wasn't.
There was, and I hate to say it, and people are probably going to come for me, but Beyonce.
Terrible. She was so terrible.
It was just so bland, the voice acting. I couldn't get past it, and when she was singing, she's an incredible singer, don't get me wrong, but I heard Beyonce singing the song, I didn't hear Nala.
Yeah.
It really took me out of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, is you hire these well-known celebrities to voice act, and you just hear those celebrities, you don't hear the characters. That mixed with the fact it wasn't animated, so they were trying to make it very realistic, but how it doesn't.
Not just that, but all the characters, all the lines looked the same. You could barely tell which one was Scar and which one was Simba and which one was Mufasa. Yes, the mains were a bit more full for Mufasa and Simba,
Yeah.
but not so much. Like, it wasn't red and black like it is in the animated, so you can clearly see who the villain is, and it's like you couldn't even see his Scar. His name is literally Scar. Make it Scar if you're going to try and
give him a mangled face.
Yeah, give him like a
something.
half face. That's like.
Yeah, that was the thing for me. For it's just the animation. I don't understand why you would change that, because it's the same with Lady and the Tramp. There's no like.
What was the point in remaking that film? Why did they remake Lady and the Tramp?
No, but I'm struggling to explain what I mean when I talk about the animation. But it's the concept in itself is already daft. The idea of like these animals talking is daft.
Yeah.
But the reason why it worked when we were kids watching it is because the cartoon style made it work, because it was a little more like daft, and like the expressions that they were making were supposed to be daft, because that's just how animation is.
But it was also done in a way that as you get older, you could appreciate the story in it as well.
Yeah. But when you take the animation out of it and you try and make it more realistic, you look at it and you're going, well, it doesn't really make sense. Like 101 Dalmatians, live action,
No
great.
talking. Yep,
The dogs don't talk, compared to the cartoon where the dogs talk, and that makes sense because it's a cartoon. It's supposed to be a little more playful, a little more, daft.
It is more aimed at children, isn't it? Whereas the live action one, while it still has its childish elements, aka Horace and Jasper, and Cruella getting dropped in poo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the dogs and the family, they don't talk. Yeah.
And that makes more sense, because if you're going for a live action, it's not supposed to be so childish to the point where it takes you out of the movie going, well, why the heck are these dogs talking?
Yeah.
And
it had Jeff Daniels in it.
Yeah. But that's not to say that the animals shouldn't have characterization.
Which they did.
You could still look at them, those animals, and go, well, that one's obviously lucky.
Yep.
And you can go, this one's this, and
Yep.
That's what what I mean.
Dipstick had his black tail.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point, actually, because
that's the issue for me with likes of Lady and the Tramp and Lion King. If you're going for a more like, it just doesn't make sense why you would try and make that live action, even though it's not live action.
Well, it's the problem with those remakes, and I think it's the point you're trying to get to, is when they remade them, they didn't know which audience they were trying to cater to. Because if you're going to try and make a live action version of this children's cartoon, which is what it is, a live action is more catered to adults, so it has to be more adult based. You can still make childish things in it, but it can't be 70% children, 30% adult. Otherwise, you're not going to get the outcome. And if you try to make it 50-50, then it just won't work. Which is why 101 Dalmatians, the dogs didn't talk. They still had moments where they barked, and the owners knew what they were talking about.
They still had characterization, so you knew who each one was.
But it wasn't. They weren't sitting there going, "Oh yes, my owner's name's Roger, and I'm going to do this and that." He pulled them into the river and stuff, and then Purdy pulled.
Yeah.
What's that word called? Anita. Pulled Anita into the river, and it's all very funny. But again, it's the same with the Lion King. Like you were saying with Lion King, if they weren't talking, you would understand it being more live action, more realistic. But then that story's gone. Yeah, it's just lions attacking each other.
Yeah,
isn't it?
And that's what I mean. Though, that's why my go-to wouldn't be
the Lion King,
or Lady and the Tramp, where it's predominantly animals that your main characters.
So we should talk about films that could be remade from Disney's point. So my two always are Tarzan, not Tarzan as in the Legend of Tarzan, which was terrible, but the actual story of Tarzan. Because let's face it, Tarzan's massively underrated. It's a brilliant film.
It's so good. The music, oh my!
I know. Just get Phil Collins back. Keep Phil Collins.
I would watch it just for even if it was a crap movie, I would go at the cinema and see it just for the music.
Yeah, just for Phil Collins.
If those same songs were going to be in it.
Yeah, have an up and comer playing Tarzan. Give someone new a chance. It's a Disney film.
Yeah.
But have that same story, and you don't similar to the Legend of Tarzan. You don't necessarily have to have all the gorillas talking, but have enough in it so that you can tell who Kerchak is. He doesn't approve of Tarzan.
Well, that's the thing though, and it's like you could. Don't get me wrong; they can still change the story, not so much to the point where you lose the integrity of the original story and what it was in the cartoon. Mm-hmm. But like you say, the gorillas don't need to talk. If you're not going to have them in it that much, say if that's the bit you change, all that interaction, because the whole point is that he can communicate with the gorillas.
Lie down, Archie. Lie down.
The whole point of his character is that he can communicate with the gorillas, and obviously they can't. So you can have those kind of interactions where you see him being a little more animalistic, trying to communicate, and
it wouldn't be hard to distinguish between there's 3 gorillas, isn't it, that he talks to. There's Kerchak, there's his mother, and there's Turk, who's like his cousin sort of. And it's like you've got the big aggressive scary one, that's Kerchak. You've got the motherly one who helps him and guides him, and the playful little one that he's friends with. So that's not hard to portray. And obviously you throw your elephant in there, who's sort of this sort of scaredy cat, and he's scared of everything. Yeah. Put the leopard in, who's this scary creature who's essentially brought these 2 families together, 2 worlds, 1 family essentially. And then you bring in the other humans, get someone great to play. Clayton. Hell, bring back Minnie Driver, I don't care. Bring back Minnie Driver to play Jane, I don't care. But that's a story that could be told quite easily, because there's a good balance of animals, humans. There's enough humans to be able to essentially translate what the gorillas aren't saying, and you could make it more realistic, more.
Like, you don't have to start. This is the thing. They don't have to start from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, they could start later on, or they could even tell it from like Jane's point of view and have her going into this jungle and meeting him. It doesn't have to. They don't have to just try and rehash the entire movie, but change it to the point where you just lose them what the movie originally was. Yeah.
Another one, and I will die on this stone, is The Hunchback, because The Hunchback of Notre Dame is a great film, brilliant film, massively underrated, and I don't get why it gets so much hate. It's got easily, aside from Scar, the scariest Disney villain in Frollo, and then when you watch that film as an adult, you understand all of it. It's like when you're a child, you don't understand what Frollo's deal is, and he's just creepy for the sake of being creepy, but in reality it's because he's feeling all these feelings for Esmeralda that aren't reciprocated. And it's got a great main character, great story, great secondary characters, great music, great visuals. It's in France, it's a different story. I mean, Josh Gad wants to play, Quasimodo. Let him do it, yeah.
I go for it.
That's another one. Is there anyone you would say?
A live action. I'm trying to think of the ones that haven't been done yet.
Because there's certain Disney films that must never be touched. Some of them would have been like Mulan and Snow White and things like that. Obviously, they've been dragged through the mud.
I can't really think of any. It's not really something that I would do.
No, I mean, in a perfect world, directors would just be able to come up with original stuff, wouldn't they? But Disney pays the money, so you're gonna do it. Hold on, I'll have a look.
Fair.
See if there's any.
Have a look at the cartoons.
Yeah, more Disney animated studios. Hunchback, Brother Bear. Oh, The Emperor's New Groove. Never ever remake that film. Oh, look, Mulan. Never ever remake The Fox and the Hound. Never do that. Great Mouse Detective. Oh, Tangled. Tangled is just the best.
So they don't need to remake Tangled, though. That's the thing.
No, never remake Tangled. Robin Hood, Peter Pan, Hercules.
I mean, they could do Hercules. I feel like it's not quite as big as some of the other movies, but they wouldn't really need to.
Atlantis. That's a big one. Well, it was a big one. Pocahontas. Lilo and Stitch.
Never do Lilo and Stitch.
Go
there.
Tinkerbells. Taking movies. Jungle Book. Well, they've remade the Jungle Book a few times, haven't they?
Yeah.
But the thing is, as well, though, I wouldn't even care about them telling side stories, like Emma Stone as Cruella. I don't mind that.
Yeah, because it's like an
Yeah.
origin kind of thing.
Yeah, because that's one of the clever things that they almost caught on to. Make films about the bad guy if you want to. Tell the story from their point of view. Maleficent is your prime. Although I didn't enjoy Maleficent, it's not my cup of tea. But I can understand why people enjoyed it. Objectively, I can understand why people enjoyed it. You enjoyed it, didn't you?
The first one was good. I wasn't the biggest fan of the second one. I didn't really see the point of why they made it, but it was alright.
Yeah.
It wasn't the worst.
But it's like, you do that, start telling them from other people, start, doing other villains, because it's not necessarily a remake, but it's...
Yeah. But again, all that Sleeping Beauty, I feel like, again, wasn't always... Was Sleeping Beauty popular? I mean, it was never really popular with me, but that might have just been my age and when it was released. I didn't really watch it that much as, like, growing up.
Wasn't big in our family, our household.
No, so I wasn't really that mad when they remade it.
Did they remake it?
I mean, you could say Maleficent's like a remake, kind of, can't you?
Yeah. I suppose we should probably move away from Disney. Stop ranting about Disney for a little while. But there has been other remakes that have happened, and there's certain films now that are sort of edging into the annals of films that should never be remade. I mean, in like 50 years' time, there's probably going to be like a Harry Potter remake or a Lord of the Rings remake or a...
Oh, I hope they don't. Lord of the Rings is like my veto. I'm going to put that out into the universe. Never touch Lord of the Rings.
Well, I hope I'm dead at that point. I never want to see a Lord of the Rings remake because
no one's ever going to be like Ian McKellen. No one's ever going to be Gandalf like Ian McKellen.
I mean, let's face it, Ian McKellen's going to outlive all of us, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
I would gladly give years of my life to keep Ian McKellen alive. I love him so much. He's such a great man. But yeah, I mean, there is going to come a point when someone eventually thinks that that's a good idea. I mean, there's people nowadays my age who haven't even seen them, and that's just so depressing.
Imagine going your entire life and never seen Lord of the Rings, never seen Star Wars. I can never understand Star Wars.
I know.
As big as it is, I can never understand it. And Harry Potter, as much as like you, kind of have this weird.
I mean, I don't dislike Harry. I mean, I've got the thing tattooed on us.
You just don't like watching it as many times as our mother has made us watch it.
Just for context, right? My mum, I hope she doesn't name it because she might kill me. My mum literally, if she's not doing anything, she'll put Harry Potter on, but she'll only ever watch the last two.
No, it's from Order of the Phoenix.
Alright, sorry. She watches the last 4, right, out of 8. And, I mean, let's face it, my mum knows more about Harry Potter than probably any human being alive.
At this point.
But, I don't like that. I mean, I watch the same film every now and again. I've seen a lot of films more times than once. But I just don't like watching the same ones all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, almost every year, I watch all of them right the way through.
You have to, don't you?
Yeah, but it's, like, Harry Potter should never be remade. I applaud Warner Brothers for going, let's tell a different story. Let's tell Grindelwald and Dumbledore. But then, I put a curse on their house for getting rid of Johnny Depp. Because
let's not go on around about this. We've already done a video.
Yeah, let's not talk about Johnny Depp.
Yeah. But I get what you mean. Like I say, the same with Lord of the Rings. They're doing this whole Rings of Power thing, aren't they? They announced that. I don't mind them doing other stories in that universe.
No.
For all means, do the whole thing. Go for it. That's what fans have been wanting for years now. Do it, but do not touch the original Lord of the Rings, or we will hurt you.
Yep.
Just saying.
We will taste man flesh. Yeah, things like that I don't care about as well. But again, I mean, that's not a remake, really. It's like it's either going to be like a prequel series or it's going to be like a sequel series, isn't it? Yeah. I'm assuming it's going to be like a prequel series because it is about the Rings of Power being forged. So I'm expecting Sauron, Celebrimbor, and the construction of all the rings. But what I don't want it to do, I don't want it to The Hobbit it. I don't want it to Hobbit it. Because The Hobbit dropped the ball massively. And I don't care what anyone says, The Hobbit dropped the ball massively. Because Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, you can't even see the gap between The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. Because The Hobbit should have been one film. Everyone knows that. The Hobbit should have been one film. It's one book. It should be one film. But, they had to have this big, elaborate battle.
Well, it was supposed to be one film, but then the studios wanted it to be three, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, because they wanted this big elaborate battle between, the Battle of the Five Armies, the battle that in the book Bilbo gets knocked out and doesn't see any of. But, that wouldn't make for good cinema.
I don't mind them doing a big battle, it was just, I felt like Smaug wasn't in it that much, considering it was about him.
Yeah.
It was about finding him and finding the...
Well, that was the best part of that entire trilogy, wasn't it? Was the back and forth between him and Bilbo. But again, that's the thing. Like, The Hobbit, it picked a great Bilbo. It had Ian McKellen in it. Richard Armitage was good as Thorin.
You didn't like the CGI and stuff, did you?
No.
I feel like that's a big thing with remakes, though, because they make it now, and all that time's passed. They use a lot of CGI.
But the thing is, with Lord of the Rings, though, when you watch the Lord of the Rings, and this is why I put so much emphasis on the difference between the two, is that Lord of the Rings was, you can rarely ever see when there's CGI, unless you're like looking at one of the towers or something, or you're looking at the eye, whatever. But when it's like acting, it's not. You can't see very much CGI. There's a lot of practical in it, and it makes it grittier. It makes it more believable. But then you get, you have these big elaborate battles, and yes, you have 5 people fighting 100 orcs, and that might seem, in context, it might seem a bit silly because the numbers game normally wins. But these are, it's one of the best men fighters, best elfin fighter, best dwarven fighter, etc. But then you've got this one dwarf in a barrel rolling through 100 orcs. Like, come on, Boromir didn't take 3 arrows for this crap. You know what I mean? And it's just, just annoys me.
Let's get back on topic.
Yeah.
And not because you could spend like hours writing about Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit.
I know. But that's what I mean, isn't it? Like, things like, let's think, what's a film? Chitty Chitty Bang Bang's never been remade, has it? Which is like 70-year-old now. That's never been remade. In my eye, it should never be remade. I wouldn't even make I don't know what character you could make like a side story about. Maybe Baron Big Child Catcher,
just
maybe.
Leave it. I couldn't watch that. I was too afraid of the Child Catcher growing up.
But it's like The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz has never been remade, but it's got...
Oh, yeah. Well...
It's got sequels. I mean, Return to Oz is the most traumatizing thing you'll ever watch. If you've never seen Return to Oz, watch Return. It's genuinely, it's a children's film, but it should be an 18 horror film. It's a horrible film to watch. Me and Nicole honestly, we were traumatized. That's probably the reason I am the way I am now.
What is because of that movie?
Yeah. But
so I feel like they've overdone Wizard of Oz, even though they haven't directly done the Wizard of Oz story with like Dorothy and that.
Yeah, because they've
done so many.
Wiz? Is it Wiz?
They did that one with Mila Kunis and...
Yeah, Oz the Great and Powerful or something.
Yeah, and I wasn't really the biggest fan of that movie.
It was, yeah, but the stage show as well, isn't it? It's about the
Wizard.
Witch. Is it? I thought it was about Wiz. I thought it was about the...
Oh, Wiz. Oh no, I thought you were talking about Oz and Great and Powerful.
No. Yeah, but there's films like that, and again, it's probably even less time. It's probably be like 20 years time. There'll probably be a Wizard of Oz remake. Because nowadays, I feel like the only director who's got a lot of just completely original ideas is Christopher Nolan. Like that might be just fiction. It's just fiction leaking out of his head.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't directors who are completely original as well. Like Quentin Tarantino's completely original, but I just feel like
Christopher Nolan's on a different level.
Yeah, he's just like, oh my god, I've got a 3-hour masterpiece in my hanky. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what Christopher Nolan's like. But let's talk about more remakes, horror films.
Yeah, I was just going to say about all this.
Because we've got this lot here.
Up here.
Do you know who this guy is?
No, I'm not even going to play this game with you.
No, come on, we're going to play this game. Do you know who this guy is? Do you know who this one is? Come on, you know who this one is. Machete. Hockey mask.
Jason.
That one's Jason.
Okay.
So who's that one? Who's that one there?
Is that the one from Chainsaw Massacre?
Mm-hmm. Do you know his name? It's good that you know the film he's from, so you're.
Well, he had a chainsaw, so I kind of just assumed it was.
He's not the only serial killer that uses a chainsaw.
I know. I just thought it was a lucky guess, to be honest. I didn't really. Is it something face? Is it like a leather face?
Leather face, yeah, leather face.
Okay.
So who's?
Other way.
I'm struggling here. Who's that one?
That one. Is that Michael Myers?
That's Michael Myers, yeah. Is the one down there? No, there isn't. No, you did well there. But yeah, horror films.
I knew Michael Myers because a new one's just come out, hasn't it?
Yeah, Halloween Kills or something.
Yeah, and we watched that trailer, so I remember Michael Myers.
But that's actually a good place to start, you know, because they're doing Halloween Kills, which is just another sequel, and then supposedly they're ending Halloween with Halloween Ends. Right.
Who's the bad guy in Halloween Ends? Michael Myers.
Michael Myers, yeah.
Right.
Even though in the last film he got left in a basement that was burning, but refuses to die.
Everyone knows that horror movie bad guys like them don't die.
Yeah.
Even I know that, and I haven't watched the movies. I refuse to watch the movies. Don't pull that face. I'm not watching the movies.
Yeah. So the thing is with horror films is, right, there's rarely ever a horror film now that isn't a ghost story or a remake or a sequel. That's just all it is now, isn't it? It's just. Can you think of anything that it doesn't involve ghosts, or is a remake or a sequel?
No, I'm not really well versed in the horror movie world, so I wouldn't know.
The problem is with these particular gentlemen, is that they came around in like the 80s, which was like the
slasher.
Yeah, it was like the peak
years,
of slasher movies. It wasn't the start, because I think it was 1961. Peeping Tom was the first film to have a slasher in it. But the 80s was when it was like prime.
Big.
Yeah. Because Freddy isn't on here, who's one of the big ones as well. Freddy is the
big
Edward Scissorhands, as you would call him.
One time.
But they got caught in this loop now, and they've been caught in this loop since the 80s, where they just go, right, okay, let's remake them and try and make it more realistic. And instead they just go for over-the-top gore, deaths, as opposed to contributing anything to a story, you know, having characters who we care about, because they all just die. So it's like, why do I care about this character when he's getting his head macheted off and stuff like that? Why do I care about this guy who's running back to the cabin and is getting a spear in his back? You know what I mean? It's like, I feel sorry for any director who's asked to make a film with this lot in.
Well, surely they would just go, okay, I'll do it, but I want to like start from the beginning and retell it. I feel like that wouldn't be terrible if they completely redid it with like an actual story. Or if they had done that before.
Well, they tried with Nightmare on Elm Street. They made one in 2010. I think it might have been 2010. And it basically retold this story about this, you know, this pedo guy who killed these kids and got burned alive. He became Freddy anyway, and it wasn't very good because they took out a lot of the elements that made Robert Englund's Freddy good. Like, he was in it a lot. You could see him, although it sort of built up to sort of you actually seeing his face, and then he became this menace who was running around killing people and stuff in their dreams, obviously. In the remake, kind of felt like they just didn't want to show you his face. So he always wore his hat low. He was always in shadow, so you couldn't see his face. The only part you could actually see of him was his glove. And I get that the point was to make him, you know, mysterious, and you can't see his face, and it's even scarier because you know he's going to kill him, but you can't see his face and all that stuff. But it's, you know, we're kind of waiting for this film to be good again. Give us something, you know. At least the directors of the Halloween films have been trying to make. They've been trying to make it more realistic, but they've also been trying to give you characters that you care about.
Yeah. Have you seen this new one?
I haven't seen Halloween Kills. I saw the one before it, which was, I think it was just called Halloween. And what they did was they brought Laurie Strode back, who was like the original survivor.
Right.
Oh God, Scream as well. I haven't even seen Scream yet. Oh, I want to go see Scream so bad. God, I might go and see it tomorrow. I might go and see it tomorrow.
Well, we should record it and we both watch it. Or is it not out yet? Like out that we can watch it.
It's not cinema. We can watch the other 4 Screams if you want.
I just feel like we should react to it.
I'm so excited for that film. It's got such a good score on Rotten Tomatoes. I hope it's good. But yeah, at least sort of modern Halloween has been they're trying to give you like realistic, but not to the point of you don't care about anyone.
Okay.
I don't really know what's going on with Leatherface actually. I don't remember the last Texas Chainsaw film that came out. I think it might have just been called Chainsaw or something, or Massacre, and it was like about him as a boy. That's like, you know, as much as I appreciate an origin story, as much as I don't really care about the psycho murderer kid who wears people's faces. I'm not really, you know.
Well, was that one with Alexander Daddario?
I think that one was just called Texas Chainsaw, I think. And I think she was meant to be like
a relation or something. Yeah, she was like somehow related to him.
Yeah, they always do that. There's always one of those films in these franchises that are somehow related to someone.
Yeah.
And you're sort of like, because they can't really remake. Right, let's talk about this guy. They can't really remake his first film because any sort of amateur horror fan will tell you. They'll always ask you the question, who was the bad guy in Friday the 13th?
It's his mum, not.
And everyone will always go, oh, Jason, which is a Scream gate thing, by the way. Stop pinching Scream's crack. Yeah, they'll always go, oh, no, it wasn't Jason, it was Mrs. Voorhees, it was his mother. And they can't really do that now because that sort of plot twist is gone.
Right.
It'd be like remaking Empire Strikes Back and expecting no one to guess that Darth Vader is Luke's father. Spoiler alert! Yeah, which is why I feel so. I mean, it's a shame, really, because I think you could make a horror movie, like you could make a horror movie remake. I think it's your prime, like Stephen King's It was your prime example. You can make a classic horror film realistic and good. I thought the first Scream It film was brilliant. Second one, nah, but the first one definitely was really good.
So if you were a director and you had the choice, which of the 3 would you want to remake?
Which of these 3?
Yeah.
Ooh, I wouldn't do Halloween because that one's been done. I would take a stab at Friday the 13th actually, because I think as much as I was sort of saying it would be impossible to get that plot twist, I think you could pull it off, but you'd have to be like, you'd have to make it really clever. I don't think I'm clever enough to pull it off, but I think a good director, like a quite a known director who knows the series, shut up, would be able to pull off that plot twist. Like maybe have like, you know, because the main characters, you know, she's whatever and whatever and whatever, and the sheriff is like, she's trying her best to find this killer, and it's, you know, there's a machete killer, and you think that it's Jason, and you spend the whole time thinking it's Jason, and turns out the sheriff is actually Mrs. Voorhees. And it's like, ooh, it was her all the time. Ooh. But you have like little things in all of it where it shows you, it gives you the clues that it's actually her. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a
Easter eggs that lead up to it.
Like a clever director would be able to pull that off. Like maybe a picture in the background of her and her son. You can't necessarily see it perfectly, but you can make out that the son's deformed a little bit because, you know, Jason's deformed. Just things like that. Like a cleverer person than me would be able to make that plot twist work again. Because that tells you that's. So
you would do the same plot twist that she was really the bad guy, but you would do it in a way that
you wouldn't necessarily see.
You wouldn't know who she was specifically.
Yeah. Either that, or you spend the whole film making people think that it's actually Jason who's the bad guy.
Right.
But I think in order to pull that off, you would have to have like quite a big actor in it. Do you know what I mean? Like you bring this big actor in, and then you do like the whole sort of press tour, essentially making out as if Jason's the bad guy. You know, all the trailers make out as if it's Jason, and all that stuff, and it's sort of like, you know, you might show like a machete being wielded, but you have like a glove, because you think, oh, Jason wears gloves, you know, whatever. And that way I think people would be invested because it's a big actor, you know, and they'd be like, right, okay, we'll go and watch it because it's got Chris Pine in it or something, I don't know. And then it's a big plot twist, and it's like, oh, it's actually Miss Voorhees, and people care about Friday the 13th again, and you can actually build on it instead of just redoing the same crap all the time. I feel sorry for them. I honestly feel sorry for them. What other films? Let's talk about remakes again. Let's stop ranting about horror films.
Remakes.
So what remakes? What films do you think could be remade?
I think could be remade.
Yeah, because we talked a lot about films that shouldn't be remade. Let's talk about ones that could be remade.
That's a difficult one.
One for me that I think is actually being done is Willow. I'm sure Willow's been redone. I'm sure I've seen it on Disney Plus. I'm sure it's been remade. Because I used to love Willow. Me and Nicole used to love Willow.
I think I've seen Willow. I think that was a little before my time.
It's George Lucas, John Williams. It's got Val Kilmer and Warwick Davis, because it's a George Lucas film. Of course, it's got Warwick Davis in it. It's really good, actually. But I think that one could be a good remake. I hope it is anyway.
I'm trying to think. It's difficult.
But I think, do you not think that
I'm not really a big fan of the idea of remakes. Whenever they announce another remake, I'm kind of like,
Do you not think though that I think there's a lot of stigma now around what makes a good film and a bad film, but even like objectively, I can watch a bad film and still enjoy it. I think that's.
Right.
I think remakes have fallen into that. Like I can watch a bad. Like I could watch one of the Friday the 13th and still enjoy it, but objectively, I know that it's a bad film. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And like one of them for me is one of those ones that's infamously bad, and I know that it's bad, but it's got a special place in my heart. It's Batman Forever. Jim Carrey is the Riddler and Tommy Lee Jones is Two-Face.
Right.
And it's because that was the first VHS I ever owned. And like I know that it's a terrible Batman film. I know that it's terrible, but I enjoy watching it. It's the same with remakes.
Do you know what they could remake? The sequel trilogy of Star Wars.
Ooh, Saturn! Go on, do the finger.
No, I'm not doing the thing. That's your thing. I'll leave that for you. I tried to do it, it didn't work.
You've got to come up with your own. One of them. Just pick emotion from a good character from a film and just copy it. That's all I do. That's Dr. Evil, that.
I'm not smart enough to do that though.
Oh, just do a sequel Star Wars lightsaber fight. Shouldn't take very long, and it'll be terrible.
Because he always puts his behind his back.
Most retarded thing I've ever heard. Oh God, I hate when they do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if they remade the sequels.
Well, actually, have you seen that? There's a lot of, because we haven't watched the Book of Boba Fett yet, which we're gonna have to start watching.
Yes.
But apparently Bryce Dallas Howard, who's directed quite a lot of The Mandalorian, and all of her episodes of The Mandalorian are brilliant. And I think it's like episode 6 or something she's done Boba Fett, and it's like supposed to be absolutely brilliant. So
Right.
so everyone's basically just gone, Bryce Dallas Howard, remake the sequels. Just do it.
I wouldn't want them to remake it though. I'd just do a different story.
Well,
Do it different. You don't. They could have the same characters. Like I wouldn't mind if they just discontinued the current sequel trilogy, but still like Poe Dameron could still turn up. Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron I felt he was a good character.
Well, the thing is, I wouldn't even necessarily say get rid of the cast. I mean, keep the cast. They're all. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they're not talented, but you know, I mean, even Daisy Ridley, she's a talented actress. She was just saddled with a terrible character, unfortunately. You know, bring back. I mean, please bring back Adam Driver. I would love to see Adam Driver in a good Star Wars film. But it's
mainly just for the continuity. When you watch the 3 movies, the more you watch it, the more you realise, oh dear God, the continuity is all over the place. They don't know what they want to do.
Especially between the
second and third one.
Yep.
They just don't know what story they're trying to tell.
Well, my thing would be, if you're going to do it, make completely certain you know what you want. Let one director do it, and just let them do what they want to do.
And plan the 3 movies out before you do the first movie.
Don't let Kathleen Kennedy anywhere near it.
Have a plan. Dave Filoni. Just let Dave Filoni do it. And Jon Favreau.
Yeah. And Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
But
imagine
like-
a sequel trilogy with them 3.
No, but apparently though, a lot of people think that because of The Mandalorian Season 2,
they're going to do it.
with Grogu, that they are eventually just going to discontinue the sequel trilogy.
Well, that's...
Because Grogu is apparently is going to be Luke's first apprentice.
That's why a lot of
So-
people's argument against the sort of stragglers that are still holding on to the sequel trilogy. It's like, well, have you noticed they haven't made anything in that era since they've released the 3rd film? They're not doing anything. There was talks of them doing a Poe Dameron series, talks of them doing a Knights of Ren series. It's like, but the rumours and that's it. Whereas Obi-Wan Kenobi's coming out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're going to do more, they're doing Ahsoka, it's on about doing a Rex show, you know, they want to do all sorts in the prequels, they want to do all sorts in the originals. It's like...
They're going back.
Yeah.
They're going back in time, aren't they?
It's like, this is all the proof that you need that people don't
Yeah.
like the sequel trilogy.
Do you know what it is though? And it's the same thing that you said about watching bad movies, knowing the bad but still somewhat enjoying them. I can do that with the sequel movies. I can watch them and go, yeah, I mean, don't get me, they're gorgeous looking movies.
Oh yeah.
The shots are amazing. It's like, it just goes to show like how good cinematography has become. It's just it's gorgeous, but I just can't look past
Lackluster story.
problems.
Well, the thing is, I can watch Force Awakens and I can watch Rise of Skywalker. Somehow I can watch The Rise of Skywalker. I can't get away with Last Jedi. I've never watched it since when I was writing that thing where I was going to rewrite them myself. I've never watched it since that, and that was about a year ago. And I'll never watch.
Yeah. I've watched them all a few times because you have to watch them more than once. Because you're not going to get everything in one go, but
I don't know.
I just,
Yeah, can't get away with it. And the thing is, there will probably be backlash as well when, if and when they do remake them. You know,
Yeah.
you'll have...
there'll be that thing where, for whatever reason, even people that were hating them will somehow act as if they liked them. Just
Yeah.
because the idea of a remake is negative now.
But my thing is that people go, oh, I hate the sequels. The prequels are where it's at. It's like, where were you before they made the sequels? I've always loved the prequels. You want to tell me about Jar Jar Binks?
It is crazy how much people have shifted, and you see it, especially on Twitter. I don't know why it's always Twitter. People on Twitter are like very opinionated.
Because Twitter is a mob without a leader.
But it's like people are like, oh my god, I've just like discovered the prequel trilogy, and it's like, I'm sorry, what? Literally, the only bad thing about the prequel trilogy is the relationship between Padme and Anakin.
And Jar Jar Binks.
And well, yeah, and Jar Jar Binks. You don't like Jar Jar Binks, but and that's just down to writing. That's just because George Lucas didn't really know how to do a love storyline,
Yeah.
a romantic storyline.
It's actually crazy, you know, when you see some of the script that he took out. Like, there's this great monologue by Obi-Wan to Padme talking about what she means to Anakin. I said, why on earth did you take that out? It's like, it's like a great monologue by Obi-Wan, and it's like, give
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor his soliloquy. Let him, you know, more
Yeah.
time as Obi-Wan. And it's crazy now how people have essentially gone, right, okay, well, we wanted more Star Wars, we got the sequels. Let's go back and let's pretend that we didn't
Let's
get
just
the
pretend that
sequels.
we didn't have it, yeah.
Um,
But like, this has become. I feel like I've seen a lot of this as well. What would your opinions be on a live action Clone Wars series? 'Cause I feel like ever since Ahsoka was announced, and obviously Book of Boba Fett, I feel like a lot of people have said, okay, they've done Boba Fett, now they can do it. Clone Wars live action.
I wouldn't I wouldn't want them to remake the whole show because that would be too much. It would be too much for me to watch. To be honest, I've already watched the Clone Wars through 7 or 8 times, and I can't do it again.
What if it was just like little bits?
If they picked a moment that was maybe talked about or, you know, was mentioned or something, I wouldn't necessarily care then. You know, I mean, there was a poll put out where it was like Clone Wars version of Revenge of the Sith or live action Siege of Mandalore. And it's like that's a hard decision to make, because either way it would be good. I would enjoy either of them. But I don't want to see a full live action version of something that I've already seen.
Yeah.
It'd be too much.
I would like it, don't get me wrong, obviously I'd watch it, but I don't know. But again though, not a lot of people would be willing to watch it because it's a cartoon. It's an animated show, so a lot of people would prefer it to be a live action. But then it would be difficult, because how would you do all of the clones? And
But you
stuff
just have
like
to
that.
get Tamira Morrison to
Do all of them.
take a long time.
I mean, I'd be down for it, but wouldn't be my go-to. If they just did like little, like little, I don't even know how to describe, like a series, but it's not like the full thing, like little bits.
Do you know what one of my favourite things was about Star Wars that's happened recently? They made a little snippet. I don't know if it was for Star Wars Day or if it was for the reveal of Obi-Wan or something. But they had Hayden Christensen show up, and he was like talking a little bit about coming back to play Darth Vader. And he said, "May the Force be with you." And that clip of him saying "May the Force be with you" was all over Twitter and all over Facebook, and it was people just collectively going, "Oh, he's coming back."
The thing is, though, with that, people didn't like him.
I know, and that's why I'm so happy.
That's the annoying thing, is that people did not like him as Anakin.
I'm going to say this, and it might be controversial. I think Darth Vader was scarier when he was Anakin. When it was Hayden, I think that was when he was at his scariest. Apart from
the Rogue One moment.
Rogue One. Yeah.
That was like chills down the spine.
But I think he did an absolutely brilliant job of making him believable.
Again, though, and the thing is, whenever you ask someone why they didn't like him, the reason they didn't like him is always because of the scenes with Padme. They didn't like his acting in those scenes, and it's like, well, everybody knows collectively
that the writing
wasn't very good for those two.
Yeah, George Lucas doesn't know how to write a good love story, but the rest of the time when he was with Obi-Wan, he was brilliant. When he became Vader and he was killing children, that was brilliant. He's got some of the. That would hurt me a little bit. When he has the best lightsaber fights out of everyone, and that's what I'm most excited about with Obi-Wan. I mean, Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan, that's only going to be brilliant. But God, man, they're going to have Hayden Christensen and Obi-Wan fighting each other again. I didn't want it to happen. Yeah, and it's that's what I mean. I was happy for Hayden Christensen getting the love that he deserved,
and for Ewan McGregor. Not just, I mean, everyone loves him, but he just seemed so happy when he came back, and he was talking about how he had to keep it a secret for so long. It was like killing him.
It was like he's grown his hair, he's grown his back. It's like, shut up, Ewan McGregor. We know you're going to be Obi-Wan.
Come on, you don't just grow your beard out for a
role.
Come on,
who are you trying to kid? We know you're having the time of your life recording Obi-Wan again. But even that shows you, it's like they're making a show like that. That's what they should be doing instead of what they try to do with the sequels. It's like, this is what we want. We want more Obi-Wan. So Disney went, "Oh, you want more Obi-Wan? Well, we'll give you more Obi-Wan." And then the sequels was like, just give us a good Luke. We want good Luke, good Leia, good Han. Well, we'll give you good Han. The other two, not so much. And then, that was it.
There's still people that try and argue that Luke's story made sense.
No.
And I'm kind of just like...
No, it did not.
The man that wouldn't kill his evil father because he still held out hope that he had good in him.
Not just his evil father, but probably one of the most evil people ever. And he
wouldn't kill him.
But his nephew had a naughty thought.
Dun, dun, dun.
Anyway, we're not going to talk about that because I'll be there all day again.
So yes, live action, less remake for sequel, yes, or no,
absolutely.
Or just a different story.
No,
Would you want a different story or would you want a remake? That's the question.
Depends, because either way, if you're going to remake it or if you're going to do a different story, you have to have one director, one vision, fried chicken. That was a Queen joke. That was a Queen joke, just in case anyone didn't get it. But yeah, you need one director who, plans everything out. By all means, get a team of people who are contributing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the documentary behind The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, they were making it up on the fly, and there was no one there to tell them.
Daisy Ridley even said that just for the day of that scene of the reveal of who she was, they changed their minds 5 times.
And it's like, that's what I mean. It's like, no one was there going, well, doesn't that sort of contradict something that we did in the last film? So,
Yeah.
you know, we can't really do that because it contradicts this. By all means, get a team of people who are sitting there, but you have to have those same team of people who are going to challenge, you know, things that are being said.
Well, like The Mandalorian, there's like 6 directors, but they all have.
They planned it.
It's one story, and they all contributed, and they all.
And they can't,
had
like.
one goal.
I don't want to. I'm not trying to sort of, you know, what's the word? I'm not trying to infer anything. I'm not trying to imply anything, but they have to be in an environment where they're not scared to speak their minds. I'm not trying to imply that, you know, Kathleen Kennedy is an evil overlord who doesn't let her people talk because she only cares about strong characters who are better than everyone else. I'm not trying to say that, but that's what they need. They need to be able to, you know, thrive. They need to be able to. I mean, let Bryce Dallas Howard bloomin' loose. Put one of those Beyblade things in and just let her go. Star Wars all over this crap. Do you know what I mean? It's just let her do it. John Favreau, wind him up and let him go.
I don't think I've actually seen something that she's directed before. Was this her first time directing?
No.
Is it not? I don't even
She's done Mandalorian episodes?
I know, but other than that, has she directed before? Because I don't think I've seen anything she's directed, but...
I don't know. I've never seen it. Well, not as far as I know, I've never seen anything. But that's where, unfortunately, it's like, you know, there's too much producer influence, as we've spoken about in the last podcast, didn't we? Too much producer influence. And when you, like, again, when you watch a documentary behind those last 2 films, you know, yes, thank you for the money that you're putting into it. You know, it's only going to help make the film better. Leave the writing to writers, to people who are very good at this stuff, to people who know the universe on the back of their hands. I mean, I'm not saying hire me, but I would be sitting there going, right, well, you can't do that because, you know, literally the last episode.
I feel like any fan would just be like that, though.
Yeah, literally take anyone.
Just anyone
who's at DisneyCon.
who knows, not even just about Star Wars, but just about basic writing.
I know.
You can't say one thing in one movie and then just try and erase it in the last movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
So me personally, if I had to pick between one or the other, I would say rewrite.
Rewrite with a different story.
Yep. But I would respect any director who would say, I'm going to remake those 3, because that director's going to get a lot of crap.
Yeah.
On their back.
That's why I feel like you would just do a different story. You could still have the same characters show up.
Yeah.
Like, they could still turn up at some point, but...
Well, the unfortunate thing is now, the sort of... It's a terrible thing now, really, isn't it? Because our last memory of Carrie Fisher was, you know, a 30-second funeral. And then a 30-second sort of appearance where a character who wasn't very good stole her brother's name for no reason other than lol storyline. Do you know what I mean? And that's unfortunately, we've lost Carrie Fisher and we're not going to be able to put her in anything yet. And so any remake, any rewrite's already been marred by that. But again, you know, you could probably work your way around it, even though it wouldn't be very nice, but you would still have to work your way around it. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see Adam Driver be given something good. I would love, honestly, more than any of them, I would love to see John Boyega given something good.
Yeah,
because
he was really good.
He had the potential to have the best story out of all of them, and was crap in the end. Well, he wasn't crap. His role was crap because of bad writing, bad decision making, etc.
So rewrite.
Yeah.
I probably agree with that.
Different story.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll leave it there because we're at about an hour. Let us know down in the comments what you think, what films shouldn't be made, what shouldn't be remade, what films should be. Star Wars, would you remake, rewrite, or would you leave them as they are? By all means, in the comments, try and tell me how I'm wrong about the sequels. I will read any attempt. My friends have tried to convince me, unsuccessfully. You're more than welcome to try and convince me yourselves, and I'll more than happily tell you how you're wrong. But then, yeah, like, subscribe, ding the bell to be notified when we upload. We upload every day. Go and watch all of our stuff on Patreon. It's all full and unedited. once I get on top of everything, you'll get everything early. What else do I want to say? Give us some stuff to talk about. Give us all the topics that we can have for these podcasts down in the comments. Anything else you want to say?
No. I don't really have anything else to add. Sorry.
Thank you for watching. May the force be with you.
You were waiting to say that the entire time, weren't you?
Yeah.
I need to know.